Well, Eswatini's Prime Minister Cleopas Dlamini has accused the Swaziland news outlet and its editor Martin Dlamini of terrorism. That's according to reports by the news agency itself. Now, it's not the first time that the publication is clashing with the government in recent history. Let's talk more about this with Swaziland News Managing Editor Martin Dlamini. A very good afternoon to you. So welcome to the program. So what exactly, because you tweeted last night that you had been declared terrorists by the Prime Minister. What does that mean? Are there any real-life consequences for that?
Thank you. Thank you for having me on Newzroom Afrika. It's not the first time the government of Eswatini and the King tried to fight the Swaziland news. They've been trying this for years since its establishment. And the way we're clashing with the government, it's because this publication is pro-democratic. We've been publishing critical articles against the King and the government. As you know, in Eswatini, that the media is highly censored. Fortunately, the Swaziland news is registered in South Africa, so they've been trying all possible means to try and shut it down, but they were not successful. So now the latest developments suggest that they are trying to declare it as a terrorist entity, including myself as the editor. But I cannot say there's some implication. It's just that they are trying to play propaganda in the eyes of the international community so that they may view the stories that we publish as in support of terrorism in Swaziland.
So what would that mean for your operations? Do you think that you'll still be able to operate in the way that you've done in Eswatini so far?
Yes, for now I'm in South Africa, so the operations will continue. We'll continue holding the government of Swaziland accountable. It's just that some of our journalists are in Swaziland, so we'll try by all possible means to make sure that they are safe, and we'll continue operating the way we've been doing. We'll publish critical articles, because this publication is the voice of the voiceless. As you know, in Swaziland, that the people has been suppressed since 1973. They've been crying for democracy. So the emergence of this publication gave the people of Swaziland the voice. And now we are seeing some changes in as far as democratic reforms are concerned. So the calls for democracy now are intensifying because there is a voice that is escalating the calls for democratic reforms in Swaziland.
You talk about an exercise for democratic reforms. You recently wrote an article a few days ago, in fact, an opinion piece, I think it was, and the title was, "When a Prime Minister of a Terrorist Regime Brands Freedom Fighters Terrorists." Do you think that is what ultimately led now to these efforts to have you and Swaziland News declared terrorists?
I don't think it's that article specifically, because the government of Swaziland has been trying so many years. But the way that article was written, you may find that they were very upset, because before they would just hold press conferences and disseminate propaganda to the public, and no different view and no independent voice will challenge them and analyze their statements and be critical to what they've been saying. So that article, as you have just mentioned, I was analyzing that this is a government that has killed over 100 people. This is a government that is suppressing the people of Swaziland, and they are quick to then label those calling for democratic reforms as terrorists, when they are failing to account for over 100 lives that were lost during last year's June 2021 political unrest.
Let's talk about the lives lost during that period of these pro-democracy protests. There were promises of an investigation to establish what exactly happened. Many of the people killed, we read at the time, were teenagers, possibly even children. Nurses were among the people hurt in some of the reported cases. How much progress has actually been made from those investigations? Has anyone been brought to book?
Actually, there are no investigations in that regard, because the people are known. These are soldiers, and the police were unleashed by the head of state. So, as you might be aware, in Swaziland, King Mswati is immune to prosecution. His security officers were acting on his orders. What happened thereafter, when the government was about to attend the United Nations Human Rights Conference, They then tried to do an investigation. That investigation was done by the Human Rights Commission. And that Human Rights Commission that is fully controlled by the king himself, they produced a report suggesting that over, I think, 46 people were killed. But that report is not specific. It's not specific in the sense that it just points that those people claim they were shot by soldiers, they were shot by the police. But it doesn't state what will happen to the perpetrators. So you can see that even though they try to do some investigation, but there's still that reluctance. There's no political will to account for the lives of these Swazis that were lost during the June 2021 political unrest.
Mm-hmm. And the pro-democracy movement itself, where does it stand now? Are there still pockets of protests? I mean, I know that the cameras of the world and even in South Africa have turned away, but is there still protest that's ongoing in Eswatini?
I'm happy to announce that there's a huge progress within the pro-democracy movement. We have the multi-stakeholder forum and we have the political parties assembly. These entities, these are the collaboration of political parties in Swaziland and the pro-democracy groups within the civil society. The way they are planning to intensify the calls for democratic reforms is promising. You need to understand that the struggle in Swaziland is not a one-day event. It needs to be planned properly, and the international community is being engaged. SADC is being engaged, not only SADC. Very soon you will see those leaders of the multi-stakeholder forum and the PPA, some of them will be touring the world, trying to lobby the international community to take action against Swaziland, against King Mswati. And our role as the media is to make sure that the voices of the people that still remain in the political wilderness, we then make sure that those voices are heard. The voices of the people of Swaziland are still crying in the political wilderness. They want democracy. That is our role as journalists.
Zweli, what do you say to people who say you have crossed the line, entities such as Swaziland News, from being a media that reports impartially to being one that's basically taken on the role of activists?
You need to understand that in every institution or in every country, without democracy, there's no media freedom. All countries that were liberated, they were liberated by the role of the media in that regard is very huge. It's not like I've crossed the lines. If you can analyze the stories of the Swaziland News, it's just that most of our stories are pro-democratic because at this point in time, the people want democracy. So it's in the public interest then to report about democracy because it seeks to liberate the people. So calls for democracy is in the public interest, and the media has an obligation to support calls for democracy because without media freedom, without democracy, there is no media freedom. You cannot say claim to be impartial when you. Okay, I'll make an example. If you can expect God to be impartial when working on a matter that involves Satan, then you are losing it. In Swaziland, the people want democracy. So that is, excuse me, if you can just analyze the stories, you will see that whenever you post a story that talk about democracy, there's a huge public interest. The people will debate the story. The people will say, this is what we want. So it is in that regard, it is in line with the role of the media to report about democracy at this point in time in Swaziland.
Just on that point, I mean, last year, it was around this time, almost a year ago, I think exactly, when the government said that it wanted the protest to end, people to go back to work, go back to school, because there would be discussions with activists then about a path to a more democratic, possibly, form of government in Eswatini. The platform, I think, was called Isibaya, where this would all be fleshed out. The pro-democracy activists said, well, that wasn't an even playing field because basically it would still give King Mswati the upper hand along with the government. As things stand, is any dialogue taking place between the government, the monarch, the government, and the people?
What you need to understand that is Sibaya is not a political dialogue. Don't even consider it as a dialogue. Sibaya is a traditional forum where Swazis would, in the 1960s, 80s, 1940s, they will come together to talk about traditional issues. At the time, Maswati were more loyal to traditional leaders. And now you cannot say you will call Sibaya to talk about political issues. And if you want to engage people in a dialogue, you must hear their side of the story. And they must make contribution, what type of a dialogue they want. So this is Sibaya, if you can read the document or the report that was released by SADC recently, it doesn't talk about Sibaya. It talks about a meaningful and inclusive political dialogue. And we expect at least a person like Thabo Mbeki, an internationally recognized mediator, who will then work in line with the recommendation of SADC. The recommendation of SADC, they don't talk about Sibaya. They talk about an inclusive and meaningful dialogue. And the venue in that regard is very important because it must give the people who are aggrieved, the people who want freedom, they must feel free to express themselves in a forum or in a venue that is conducive for them to state and express themselves in this regard.
Zweli Dlamini, managing news editor at Swaziland News. Good to have your time, sir. Thank you.